monster haul back to justify trading, maybe one of the 2 or 3 best players in the NBA.
Very interesting. It could be a complete overhaul there at Houston. James Harden spent 8 years with the team. They've never even reached the finals, knocked off by the Lakers in the conference semis this year. And I know the champs had a busy day. Anthony Davis opted out as expected, which isn't quite as bad as it sounds, and they intend to acquire Dennis Shroder. Tell us a little bit about both of those stories.
Well, Dennis Shroder from Oklahoma City, they'll finalize that deal here in the next few days, but Danny Green going back to Oklahoma City, perhaps onto a third team, more importantly for Oklahoma City, the 28th pick in the draft. They have 16 first-round picks here over the next 5 years, but for the Lakers, they may lose Rajon Rondo in free agency. Shroder is a player who is a very versatile guard, can play both spots, and really helps the defending champs.
And as far as Anthony Davis is concerned?
The question with Davis is not is he going to be back with the Lakers, how long of an extension of a new deal will he sign? Will he line up with LeBron James? Does he do a 4 or 5 year deal? That's what we'll find out here in the next week.
Okay, obviously they want to keep him in the fold for the long haul. They're the champs. They want to keep this thing going. Woj giving us the very least. It's going to be a very busy week in the NBA. The draft just a couple days away, and then free agency after that. By the way, ESPN's The Woj Pod debuts this morning. Special 3-part series, the Giannis draft, the story behind Milwaukee drafting Giannis in 2013. It's now available on ESPN.com's The Woj Pod.
Teammate. One thing that you can't take away from me is that I love to play. I play hard. I compete every single night I step on the floor.
Go beast mode. I'm on the world like Eco. I go crazy like CeeLo. Can't stop me like Chico's. Hey, way too fast. I gotta go. I'm in the zone. Foot on the gas.
I impact the game in so many different ways, and I've proven that for many years, and that's why I'm not worried.
Well, he's not worried, but I wonder if some of the fans in Houston are. NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski with us now live on SportsCenter. Woj, uncertain? That seems like it's the best way to describe the situation in Houston with the 2 former MVPs. What's the latest on the futures of Russell Westbrook and James Harden?
Well, Sage, let's start with James Harden. The organization right now has no intention of engaging in any trade talks with James Harden, and they expect to play this season out with him. Russell Westbrook, they are open to talking to teams. I think both sides are very open to it, but I'm told it is a very slow developing marketplace for Russell Westbrook right now. And, there are not teams right now who are ready to move quickly, at the very least, to take that kind of $130 million plus investment on, number one, in these economic times, and number two, at Russell Westbrook's advancing age. Now, maybe that market opens up over time, but right now, I think his immediate future remains in Houston with the Rockets.
Okay, yes, advanced age. I mean, he turned 32 yesterday, and that's a lot of wear and tear on that body. His former team, the Thunder, have been in talks to trade Chris Paul to the Suns. Chris Paul, of course, was in Houston just last year. Woj, how far along are these discussions?
Well, both Oklahoma City and Phoenix, they've engaged in these conversations, and Oklahoma City has very much allowed, like they did with stars they've had in the past, Paul George, Carmelo Anthony, and Russell Westbrook, to give the star players the ability in a trade scenario to have some voice on where they might go. They're doing the same with Chris Paul. So he and his group, certainly have the ability here to bring ideas to Oklahoma City. The Phoenix scenario remains out there. There were some talks about possibly some third teams involved who might help to move some of the pieces around. But right now, I think Chris Paul is being patient about where his next destination might be, his family and where they would spend the season. Those are important considerations to him. But I think you'll continue to see that Chris Paul, Oklahoma City situation, one where they'll work together on trying to figure out a next step for him.
Yeah, Chris Paul, 35 years old, the Thunder owing him $41.4 million next year. And they also just hired the new head coach, assistant Mark Daigneault.